Hello everyone, welcome to this resume preparation workshop from Feedback First. In this workshop, we're going to focus on some of the common mistakes that are done while preparing a data scientist resume, how to identify those mistakes, and then how to fix those mistakes. And then we're also going to see how we can start working on a resume that gets you a dream data scientist job. Let's get started. This is the agenda for today's session. So we're going to first check, forget about data scientist resumes. What exactly makes a resume unique? As we discussed in our previous workshop, it's all about making that first impression. The interviewer should remember you even after the interview. Your interview performance is one thing, your portfolio is another thing, and the third aspect of it is how does a resume stand out? That's exactly what we're going to focus in the first part of today's discussion. And then we're going to look at the common resume mistakes. We're going to look at 5 common mistakes that are done by data science aspirant. And the very first step towards solving any problem is to identify the problem. That's exactly what we're going to do in the second phase of today's workshop. And then finally, we're going to conclude with what exactly is the checklist of items that you need to look at when you're preparing your data scientist resume. You might be applying for a variety of jobs. And after applying for a job or just before applying for a job, you just need to make sure that you are not committing these mistakes on your resume and make sure that your resume has all these boxes ticked. That's exactly what we're going to check with the checklist. And then we're going to have some time taking questions, right? And then looking at, and support team will be answering your questions. And in the entire duration of the workshop, what I would request you guys to do is take out your resume. It's okay even if it is underprepared. Take out your resume and evaluate whatever that we are discussing with respect to your resume. Are you doing any of these mistakes? Are you not doing any of this mistake, which is good? And how can you do better? Right? So keep your resume handy and make sure that you're taking notes. And whenever you have any questions, you can just post it in the live chat and my team is going to help you out. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. So what exactly is going to make your resume unique? How to build a unique resume? These are the key aspects of a unique resume, but based on analysis of hundreds of data scientist resumes that I've seen over the last 2-3 years. These are the things that actually make your resume stand out. And this is true not only for a data scientist resume, even for any resume for that matter, any position for that matter. The first step is you need to focus on the why on whatever that you're mentioning in your resume, then compared to the what. Right? Many of us focus on the what, like what awards did we win? What degrees did we earn? What were those colleges in which you studied? We focus more on the what rather than on the why aspect of it. Why talks about why did you win that award? Why do you think this is your biggest accomplishment? Why did you do a data science course online? Why did you take up that initiative? Right? So if you can focus on the why aspect of it, automatically you are going to tell a story. And once you tell a story, the person who is looking at your resume is going to connect with it. And he's going to remember. We remember stories. And that's exactly what you'll be able to come up with. General, authentic stories if you focus on the why aspect of it. And once you focus on the why, the second step is identify a theme that emerges, that connects all the experience on your resume. So an example of a theme is something like you are a really good communicator all through your career, starting from your college days, starting from your first job, second job, right? The biggest accomplishments. Right? Try to look for that connection. There will be some common theme that connects all your experiences. It will not be disjointed. Like say, for example, your first job, you are a support guy. Second job, you are a software developer. Third job, you're a database administrator. Fourth job, you're a data scientist. It will not be like that, typically, isn't it? But there will be some connection. It can be, the connection can be a problem solver. The connection can be a really good communicator. Another theme can be leadership, right? Another theme can be a hacker, a technology guy, right? Try to come up with a theme and make sure that everything in your resume is falling along with your theme, right? Most of the time, we try to cram up a lot of things in our resumes. If you have a theme, then you get to know which ones to prioritize and which ones to deprioritize. And just like every movie, every really good movie has a theme as a whole, right? Your resume should also have the theme. And make sure you need to do a lot of soul searching, brainstorming with your mentors to find out what is the theme that connects all the different experiences in your resume. Right? Now you have focus on the why aspect of it, you have the theme, and the final step is to differentiate. And as I told you, the best way to differentiate is try to combine the theme and explain the logic behind every decision that you've taken on your resume and weave it together in the form of a story. In the sense, you guys must be thinking, how will I write stories on a resume? Resume itself is such a small piece of real estate when it comes to explaining your 15 years of experience, 10 years of experience. On top of that, you're asking us to tell stories. That's not the point, right? The point here is you need to have a sequence, right? What is a story? A story is a logical connection of events, right? Similarly, in your resume too, you need to highlight those experiences that correspond to the job at hand, right? You should be able to connect all those varied experiences that you have in your resume, right? You already have a theme and you already have the focus on the why. Now, all you need to look at is organizing them in such a way that you tell a nice, crisp, memorable story that the recruiters cannot ignore. And they want to hear more about the story during the interview, right? So that's exactly how you need to create that differentiating factor. And it's not easy. It's easier said than done. Right? It takes a lot of practice. You need to take a lot of mock interviews, get your resume reviewed by a variety of people, diverse perspectives, and that's how you finally come upon a format that works for you. Right? So these are the three steps that you need to follow to build a unique resume. Okay. Now, that is a good part of it. How do you build a unique resume? Now let us look at the ugly part of it, which is some of the common resume mistakes that people do, right? And how does this the story part of it, right, solve all these mistakes, right? So these are the 5 common resume mistakes that have been identified by different recruiters across the globe when they analyzed a lot of data science resumes. Right? And the first mistake is too much focus on job responsibilities, lack of prioritization. Again, lack of a theme leads to lack of prioritization. Absence of a unique portfolio, we'll see what that is. No explanation of outcomes of the things that you've done on your resume. And then finally, the biggest barrier, which is too much technical jargon. Right? Let us see what these mistakes are in detail with examples, how to identify these mistakes and how not to repeat them. Right? We're going to see both of them with examples, right, as to how you can identify this and fix this on your resume. First mistake, too much focus on job responsibilities. Majority of us, when we see a job, we want to ensure that everything that is outlined in the job description matches on your resume. Some of us even control C, control V that also, right? And the problem with that approach is, as I told you, you are one of maybe 1,000 people who are applying for the job, and you have only one shot, maybe 3 seconds, 5 seconds time with the recruiter, who is going to just glance through your resume and then decide whether the resume is good enough for you to land an interview. So all you have is, at the max, you can say 10 seconds of time. In those 10 seconds, the recruiter doesn't want to see a replica of the job posting that they've done, right? They want to see someone who demonstrates the job responsibilities through achievements. So what do you mean by that? Take an example. Look at this particular snapshot. Right? If this is the professional summary of a person who is applying for a data scientist job, right? Look at the first paragraph. Good knowledge and experience in statistics, machine learning, NLP, artificial intelligence applications, the development using Python, are good background in deep learning, machine learning, pattern recognition. Great. skill set, no doubt about that. But the problem is another 20 people can also write this, right? Another 40 people can maybe come up with the exact same sequence of steps. So first you talk about statistics and then machine learning and then NLP and then deep learning, right? And there is no differentiation as such, right? You are saying you possess knowledge. Every one of us will say that we have the necessary knowledge, right? How do you validate that? How do you quantify that, right? So as you can see here, it is too generic, right? Because what this person might have done is he or she has seen the job description of a data scientist, and they just wanted to ensure that they're on the safe side, but ensure that all the keywords are present, all the job description things are. Maybe this will work. I'm not saying this will not work. Maybe this will work for a recruiter who looks at these things. Maybe he finds that, okay, the job description and the resume match perfectly. Let me call you. But the chances of that happening is very low, right? Majority of the recruiters, particularly for experienced roles, they're not looking for people who can just do a job. They are looking for people who can excel at a job, right? And that's exactly where you need to highlight your professional achievements. Do not waste real estate in your resume by separating out job responsibilities and achievements. While explaining achievement itself, try to explain as much as possible about your responsibilities. So look at this example. Look at this resume. Right? As you can see, she utilized Python to implement unsupervised machine learning techniques for time series anomaly detection on 3 terabytes of data, a lot of data, right? Which reduced auto process time by 20%. So now this person is being specific. This person is highlighting what she has done, what her job was by focusing on an achievement, right? Look at the second point, wrangled 10 terabytes of trading data. Again, she's explaining, highlighting the domain expertise, right? Hadoop distributed file system, real time, right? She's not looking at generic, I know Keras, I know time distribution algorithms, right? She's looking at how her work is impacting the customer, right? And she's also combining this information in such a way that she doesn't need to again mention job responsibilities. We already understand what her job responsibilities are by looking at this achievement, right? So this is how you need to solve this mistake. Never ever spend time putting generic stuff on your resume, right? They always think of, whenever you're writing a word, right? Always think about the fact that, okay, now that I'm writing this word, what is the impact, right? So whenever you're writing a love letter, right? We don't really waste a lot of stuff on words being generic messages, right? We try to think behind each and every word as much as we can, and then we proceed forward, right? So that's exactly the reason why in resume also, it's like a love letter. You're like writing a love letter to the organization, not to the recruiter, organization, right? So you need to ensure that every word that you write should pack a punch, and it should be as non-generic as possible, right? So this is how you crack the first mistake. First mistake is you are trying to be not generic by highlighting the accomplishments. Now, second mistake, lack of prioritization, right? Now, if you look at the same, again, same professional summary here, right? Look at some of the points, bullet points. We saw the first paragraph in the previous discussion. Now look at the bullet points. Look at the bullet points that are highlighted by these cross marks. That is again not exactly the high priority things for a data scientist, isn't it? Right? They're important, no doubt about that. They're important for an employee, but they're not important for the role of a data scientist. Right? Now, majority of us would be looking at career transitions. We would not have started our career as a data scientist because data science as a profession itself was not available till 5 years ago, right? If that is the case, then how are you going to make how are you going to make sense of those initial 5-10 years of your work, right? You might be a banker, you might be a teacher, you might be a trader, right? You might be a software developer, you might be a database administrator, right? Do you need to highlight what you've done as a database administrator when you're applying for the role of a data scientist? Hell no. You should not apply them. You should not highlight them, right? If possible, just remove them. You might be sentimental about them. You might think, okay, I've spent 10 years of my life working on Oracle database. I spent 15 years of my life as a Java developer. Now you're telling me to drop them just like that? Is that fair? That might be the question, isn't it? Right? But unfortunately, it's all about prioritization as a data scientist, right? As you adapt in your career, you are the guy who decided to do a career transition, right? You need to let go of some of the baggage, right? Again, no need to completely mask your previous experiences. Highlight only those experiences from your previous work experience that cater to the role of a data scientist, like say, for example, communication skills. And do not just say, I have good communication skills, prove it. How did you highlight your communication skill, right, while managing a database administrator project, while managing a Java project end-to-end? As a trader, right, how did you highlight problems? How can you highlight problem solving? You must have solved some problems throughout your career, right? Highlight those aspects from your previous experience, not stuff which will not have any value for a data scientist. It's like this. Recruiters, if they're looking for a wicket keeper to be hired, they were only looking for a wicket keeping skills. They don't care whether you are a great batsman. They don't care whether you're also a part-time bowler. Are you good at wicket keeping or not? That's it. They're very specific, right? Just like how IPL clubs auction by players, right? They don't go by reputation. They go by skill set. They go by match, right? And that's the reason why you also need to prioritize everything in your resume, so that even if it is very sentimental, right? Even if you are very, very attached to a particular skill set, if it is not going to help you in your career as a data scientist, then do go ahead and feel free to drop it, right? And this is how a resume looks like when you properly prioritize. Now look at these two projects for this data scientist, right? Look at every sentence corresponding to analytics, corresponding to problem solving, right? Developing action plans, driving the interaction, partnership among stakeholders, building predictive models, developing algorithms, designing algorithms, demonstrating knowledge and execution, right? Through test automation. And look at how do you provide insights, right? Execute analytical modeling, conducting business analysis. Do you see, right? You see that every line that was mentioned here, she might have had other experiences apart from being a data scientist, right? She might have done other things in the project apart from just analytical work. But when you are applying for the data scientist role, it's very important to ensure that everything is going to make, because companies are not going to give you an opportunity because you're going to learn stuff. Companies are going to give you an opportunity because they know that you already learned stuff and they are going to benefit from your learning. They are not trained, they're not spending lakhs to train you, right? And the best way to demonstrate that you know what it takes to succeed in the role of a data scientist in that company is to highlight the most important work that you've done in your life, right? Can you put 10 years, 15 years of experience in a single page? Right? Try doing that. Majority of us would think, oh, how can you do that? 15 years of experience in one page. We need at least 3 to 4 pages. Some of us might even look at 10-page book, right? But that's the challenge. Can you put your entire 10, 15 years of experience in a single page? Is it possible? Right? If you have the idea, if you have the goal to make it possible, then it can be made possible. Right? So that's exactly how you need to cut through the product. This is how you make sure that your resume doesn't have unnecessary words, right? So the two mistakes: your resume should not be generic, and your resume should not contain redundant stuff. Okay, this is how you fix these two mistakes. Now comes the third mistake: absence of a unique portfolio. We already saw in the previous workshop what is the importance of portfolio for a data scientist. Now, what does this absence of unique portfolio means? What does unique portfolio mean? Do you guys recognize these projects? Sentiment analysis for health reviews, machine learning classification for Titanic passengers, study on social media sites, handwritten numerical image recognition data sets. All of you, for that matter, would have recognized them, definitely. Where did you see them? In the last course that you've taken, right? And now if you're highlighting these on your resume, every single person who has taken that course can also highlight this, isn't it? Right? There is nothing unique about this problem sets. Maybe you have done something unique, but recruiters, the moment they see these kind of data which are fairly popular, right, they will give a hard pass. They're looking for people who solve real world problems. You learn in whichever course, it doesn't matter. right? If you are learning in university, if you're learning online, if you're learning through correspondence, it doesn't matter. What kind of problems did you solve real world, right? And then no mistake about it, right? So here, make no mistake, these data sets are good data sets, challenging data sets. But already there is a lot of literature around these data sets. There are a lot of solutions around these data sets. And you highlighting this will ensure that you are just another person, right, who is working on this. So what's like, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make that impression in those 10 seconds where the person remembers you long after seeing your resume, right? So that's the reason why you need to ensure that whatever projects that you're taken up, you need to ensure that these are as unique as possible. These actually solve real world problems, right? That's the best way to highlight this. Now you look at this particular person's portfolio, right? She also did a course in a university, but you see the kind of project she has taken during the course, right? If you see, she looked at data from Twitter, data from blogs, right? And then she also looked at data from Stack Overflow, Quora, right? Now this tells a recruiter that, okay, this person, while learning a course, he was not just limited to course projects, right? She was actually collecting data from real world data sources like Twitter, like Coursera, like blogs, right? And she also has used a variety of deep learning networks, right? And then she also highlighted some of those reinforcement, the latest and the greatest cutting edge stuff, right? And you see, this is the stuff that is fascinating for the recruiter, right? Always have your pet projects. Always make sure that your portfolio is as unique as possible, right? Now, these are interesting, isn't it? Right? And as a recruiter, I would like to learn more, right? So how did you collect data from Twitter? Right? Did you have any problems collecting the data or having any throttle speed limits on extracting data? How did you do real-time blog extraction? What kind of parsers did you use? Right? That's how a really interesting discussion is going to start. Right? So this is the third mistake that you should avoid. Never ever use generic projects that you find in a course. Always try to do something on your own. Right? Now comes mistake 4, which we already kind of briefly touched upon. Now, no focus on outcomes. How is it helpful for the end user? Majority of us forget about this, right? We say, okay, we communicate results to the customer, we presented the analysis to the customer, and that's about it. The model is done. The model is in Jupyter Notebook. It's 86% accurate, 99% accurate. F1 score is 93, 94, right? It's an imbalanced data set. We used all those different techniques. These are different algorithms that we used. That's all good. That's all fine. But as a recruiter, I'm looking for people who not only know how to use them, but also how to fine tune them, improve them by taking real world customer feedback. Right? There is a lot of difference between building a machine learning model and operationalizing a machine learning model. Right? So if you look at it, you might have looked at variety of data sets during your course, different courses. Right? But if you look around you, how many AI products are there? Not many, isn't it? Right? So now you see now you ask yourself, why is that the case? Why are there so many people taking courses? Why are there so many data science publications out there? But then around you, if you look at it, you are still doing calculation Excel file, right? If you still don't know what is the best way to manage your credit card, right? You still don't know what kind of movies like are best suited to you, right? Or which kind of jobs, right, are best suited to you, right? You still see a lot of stuff that is automated but not intelligent around you. Because even Siri, for that matter, still talks to you as if you are speaking with her for the first time, isn't it? Right? So there's still a lot of scope out there, right? And those are the kind of challenges people are looking for you to explain in your resume, right? Can you just look at your resume and not just mention what you've done, right? Mention what was the impact, what was the end goal, what was the finale of whatever project that you've taken, and how did it impact the customer, right? Again, you need not save billions of dollars to stand out here. Even if you have had a 1% impact or 2% impact, that is still fine, right? You might have failed. Highlight that failing. Highlight why you think you failed, right? Highlight what you could have done to improve. Now, right, given the same opportunity again, what would you do differently, right? Try to highlight those aspects in your resume. And these are the kind of discussions that will get you a job, right, in the interview also, right? So highlight professional accomplishment. Again, same example as we've seen earlier, right? As you can see here, for every project she has taken, she always ensured that the metrics were there. If you cannot find metrics to quantify your own accomplishments, then how can I trust you as a data scientist, right, to come up with metrics to help customers, to help come up with quantitative analysis to help my customers, right? So that's how a recruiter would think, isn't it? So it's very important to highlight these professional accomplishments, right? And you always need to highlight how exactly the impact is clearly outlined. Should always be clearly outlined when you're highlighting your professional accomplishments. Okay, now we have seen 4 mistakes. Not to be too generic, right? Prioritize properly, have a unique portfolio, and always quantify the impact. The 5th mistake looks like a silly mistake, but it's probably the most common mistake. Data science is a huge word, right? It's a huge set of technologies, concepts, and everything. And it is very tempting to keep everything on your resume. Every programming language that you used, right? Every new package that you come up with, right? Every tool that you know, right? And then you also use stars, right? 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. I personally never understood what kind of sense should I make out of these stars? And what do these ratings mean? You are giving yourself 3 out of 5. What does that mean? Right? Does it mean that you know only some concepts out of the data visualization part of it? Or does it mean that you know all the concepts, but you're not good at some of the concepts? What does it mean? Right? So no recruiter really gives you an interview call by looking at the stars that you give yourself. Right? So again, at least based on my personal experience, right? Always focus on highlighting your skills, but only the skills that are necessary for you to become a data scientist, right? No need to put Java, C++, Python, or everything else, XML, JSON, all that stuff. And that is pretty basic. Everybody expects you to understand XML, JSON, and other formats, right? That is nothing, again, it's nothing to be boasting about, right? What you need to do is keep the list short, but make sure that you are giving your GitHub link. You're giving your Medium blog. You're giving your LinkedIn profile, right? You highlight your technical skill set through these portfolio links, right? And that's so as a recruiter, I get a sense of how good are you technology-wise, right? Mentioning just merely keeping the stars, ratings, and everything, it doesn't count for anything, right? What counts for me is, do you have a really good GitHub portfolio? Do you have your own website? Right? Do you have your own YouTube channel? Do you have your own Medium blog? And this is 2021. This is how recruiters look at stuff. They're not looking for things that you mention on resume and take them on face value. Right? There's a lot of research that happens in the background, particularly for high-paying jobs like data scientists. And this is one way recruiters will definitely get sense of how good you are technically. Right? And highlight the repositories, which automatically will highlight the technical skill set. No need to mention that you are a good SQL, you are a great SQL guy. If you already built a website which uses SQL as the backend, right, where you have the GitHub repository code, right, where you wrote a machine learning algorithm to run in SQL, right? So no need to again highlight the SQL aspect of it, right? So make sure that the list is crisp, short, and at the same time impactful, right? And make sure that you are complementing that list always with the links to your GitHub profile, to your Medium blog, to your YouTube channel, to your website, right? Or any other source, any other blog that you maintain, right? So this is how you come across, you solve these 5 mistakes, right? So again, to recap, ensure that your resume is not generic, prioritize properly, only take stuff that is necessary for your data scientist position, make sure that you have a unique portfolio, always quantify everything that you do, right? Not only in your course, in your previous jobs, right? And everything. And maintain the fact that the technological skills part of it, you don't come up with a bucket list of technologies, right? Just Google, anybody who can do Google search and keep them, there'll not be any difference between you and that person, isn't it? Right? Always complement them with your repositories. right? Now comes the checklist. Okay, now that you know how to have a theme, a story in your resume, as we discussed in the first part, now you also know how to avoid these mistakes. Now, the final step is whenever you're preparing your resume for a particular job, always ensure that whatever are the top 10 unique attributes according to you, right, shine through in the resume. Right? Top unique attributes can be you are a really good problem solver, you have really great communication skills, you are a competitive person, right? You can manage stakeholders like that. You can have every person has a top 10 skill set, right? And make sure that these top 10 skill sets, top 10 things that you want to highlight in your career are highlighted in the resume, right? And also in the interview, always ensure that you had a discussion around these 10 items, 10 things, right? So otherwise that would be like you can get the satisfaction that you put your best foot forward, right? Otherwise what happens is you will always have that feeling that, okay, maybe I should have discussed this fourth or fifth item that is really great about my experience, but I didn't get a chance, right? Resume is your starting point, right? So always ensure that those top 10 things in your resume, in your career, are getting highlighted in the resume, right? And sometimes it requires a lot of introspection, and most of the time you will get this top 10 items by discussing with a person who is close to you. It can be a mentor, it can be a friend, it can be your parents, it can be your family members, anyone, right? They are the ones who will tell you the top 10 things they like or dislike about you, right? And focus on the likes because you're trying to put your best foot forward, right? And always follow the situation, action, result. What was the problem? What did you do? And what was the result? And what did you learn from it, right? Whenever you're explaining any item, any sentence, every sentence that you're writing when it comes to your projects, when it comes to your previous experience, when it comes to your accomplishment, always ensure that you are properly mentioning the situation, what action did you take, and the result, right? And as we discussed, do not bombard the resume with too much technical jargon. Make sure that there is not a lot of technical jargon. Even a person from non-technical background should be able to understand how good the job you have done in your career, right? And focus on highlighting the learning. Right? Always ensure that this is what you learned while implementing this credit card default model. Right? This is what you've learned when you are implementing image recognition model. Right? Keep the content crisp and interesting. Make sure that you're using short sentences. Do not just go off the rails by blabbering out. Right? Make sure that you are cutting it short and at the same time to the point. Right? Always again, the challenge, right? 10 years of experience, single page. Can you do that? That's always the biggest challenge. Right? Now, you guys must be thinking, okay, this is good. I wish to receive personalized feedback, and you just said you need personalized feedback. Where do I start? How do I get it? Right? As I told you, there are multiple options to proceed. But if you do not have a mentor and wish to receive mentoring, personalized mentoring, you can enroll in the Feedback First program. Right? In the Feedback First program, you get a personalized coaching plan assigned to you. You get a mentor with whom you can engage on a weekly basis, right? Quarterly basis, where you and your mentor can engage in one-to-one resume review workshops, mock interview sessions, right? And make sure that you get the kind of help necessary for you to take the next step in your career, right? The link to join this program, right, will be posted in the comments, and you can just reach out to the support team and they'll help you with how to move forward. And this is one way to get personalized feedback. Right? Any questions? Now is the time to ask in the chat. Okay, and if you want to follow up after this session to get any other questions clarified, this is our email ID. You can just drop an email to support@aiquestion.am and we should be able to help you out. Right? You can send your resumes, get preliminary feedback. You can set up a one-to-one mentoring session, right? And then once you enroll for the program, where you'll be getting a more detailed coaching plan that helps you build a resume that will land your dream job. Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot for joining the session. Hope you found the session useful and helpful. If you have any feedback, do feel free to share. Wish you all the very best in your success, right? Find the right job, prepare the correct resume, and you'll be able to land your dream position as a data scientist. All the very best.